I think football players are the most athletic. They can jump the highest, they can run the fastest, they're the strongest, they're the toughest.
Yeah. We can't forget the most mutated person of all time is Shaquille O'Neal.
Hitting the hard ball is like the hardest thing you can do, yes. But then running them bases.
It's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu, right? Is that you don't have to look the part.
Boxing.
Boxing,
they do have some freaks. I put that at athletic.
Yeah, I don't think you can put it any lower than that.
Or was that cricket?
These guys in particular look like they suck.
Handball.
What is handball?
It's an Olympic sport?
Hey.
The fuck, you know?
Dude, I gotta get into this.
I'm just thinking, like, as humans in general, we just have way too much time on our hands. All of our Canadian listeners are probably pretty pumped that we're putting hockey up top.
It might be the most exciting sport to watch.
I would say that there's not even a question where there's the freakiest athletes. And I think this clip from Shannon Sharpe seemed pretty interesting to me, so I wanted to see if you guys wanted to chat about some of this.
Let's do this. Let's see if I don't
He's talking about the NFL, how he thinks the NFL has the best athletes. We get a take from our audience and see what they think, too.
All players are the most athletic. They can jump the highest, they can run the fastest, they're the strongest, they're the toughest.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that other sports, baseball or whatever sports, but I'm talking about, if you talk about athlete fast.
Before I go any further, I am just a nigga with an opinion. I do not believe that NFL players are the most athletic. No way, no how. They are not the most athletic, well-rounded athletes. I have no order for this, but I am just going to say what I think is the most athletic athletes. I'm going to have to say wrestling. It's like one or two.
Good choice.
Track and field athletes are fucking godly-ass motherfucker athletes. Especially the field motherfuckers. Those are just walking superheroes. I just can't say football because there's rugby. Rugby just seems way more athletic. I could be wrong. But if you're going to say football between the two, I'd say there's a little bit more variables in football, so I can see why you would lean towards that way. Then you got motherfucking gymnasts. Those motherfuckers are fucking monsters, bud. Don't let that fucking leotard fucking onesie fool you, motherfucker. What is y'all's opinion? I want to hear it. Like I said, I just have my opinion. What's y'all's?
Ball play.
The thing you said about the rugby players versus football players, I would say that NFL players do have the freakier athletes because you were alluding to this while we were talking about this earlier. There's more money.
Oh, yeah.
And where there's more money, you're going to have like the cream of the crop are going to try to find the place where they can make the most money while doing what they do. So you'll see freaky athletes in rugby,
Right.
but you're going to see freakier athletes in the NFL most likely.
Yeah, there's some real mutants in the NFL. I think the NFL is kind of notorious for just having crazy athletes. There's so many different positions that an athlete might play. You got, defensive backs, and you got receivers, and you got all these different positions on the field that kind of require different things. But then you have like a running back or linebacker. Those people usually have the attributes that most people would love to have. They're usually pretty damn big. They're usually well over 200 pounds. They're usually well over 6 feet tall. And they're usually fast, agile, strong, in very good shape. Whenever I go and see the 49ers play, these athletes just, they look incredible. Obviously, they got the shoulder pads on and stuff like that, so they look even wider than they actually are. But it just very impressive physiques, even amongst the offensive and defensive line, where sometimes the athletes have more body fat, but even those guys are mutants because they're 300 plus pounds and they're running like a 4.9 40 or 4.8 40.
Picture a motherfucker like that coming at you, bro. That's the scariest thing. And for most people, they're probably going to catch you.
But I would say that there's not even a question where there's the freakiest athletes, and that's basketball.
Okay, tell me why.
I just think in terms of athleticism and the sheer size of those athletes, how they have to like manage. Like, how do you manage like a 6'7" body or 6'9" body?
I mean, just even think about the freakiest, I guess, I wouldn't say he's maybe the freakiest athlete, but just in terms of what he can do, Wemby. Victor Wembanyama.
Insane.
Not saying he can't jump or whatever, but he's not as like explosive as LeBron. But anyway, just like the sheer mass and the way he can move that body through space. I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying.
And then you also have, we can't forget the most mutated person of all time is Shaquille O'Neal. You know, you don't think of athletes ever being, sometimes you might think of an athlete being 200 pounds. Bo Jackson was 225 pounds and ran, you know, supposed like 4:140, like just unbelievable, like Olympic level speed. You got, you know, someone like Francis Ngannou, who's like 250 or 260 pounds. Brock Lesnar, same thing. It's rare to hear about athletes that are 300 pounds. The great Reggie White that played for the Philadelphia Eagles was a 300-pound defensive end that was extremely athletic, fast, explosive, every which thing you can kind of think of. And then it's like, well, I never hear of an athlete being 350. Like that would probably just be way too big and fat, right? But Shaq got up to be 400 pounds, and that wasn't his best playing weight. But he was 400 pounds.
Shaq was a strong man running around on the basketball field.
Right?
Shit, he was.
Unbelievable. And like, he's the most unstoppable force that we've ever seen in any sport. I don't think anyone even comes close. Now, there's guys now, though, that are maybe not as big as framed as Shaq.
Shaq's peak weight hit as much as 440 pounds at
Yo.
7'1". 440, not just 4.
Wow.
440 pounds.
That's retarded.
Imagine the
Should've said
coach.
that's stupid. That's
Imagine the coach being like, "What is your problem? Why can't you guard him?" You're like, "He's 440 pounds.
Like, dude, half floor is backing me down. What do you want me to do?
Impossible to do
Except
anything
taller.
against.
During the Lakers 2002 title run, he was over 400.
Wow.
So when he won a championship, he was over 400
That's when
pounds.
Kobe was getting pissed at him all the time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's when the refs help him beat the Kings.
Yeah,
That was that
exactly.
year.
There's a lot of freaks. You know, I think one of the appeal with the San Francisco 49ers is that there's some freaks on that team. You know, they have Deebo Samuels, who I didn't get to see him in person, but their coach, their strength coach, remember their strength coach told us, they're like, yeah, dude, Deebo Samuels is kind of like Nsima running down the field. And I was like, what? I'm like, he goes, well, he's not as big as Nsima up top, but he said he was what, 230, right?
Yeah, he said he was just a big solid block.
He's like, the legs are similar. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's unbelievable. I mean, Deebo Samuel is one of the faster, like more elusive.
How tall is he?
He's probably about 5'11".
Oh shit.
So he's probably got like
Oh my
your
God.
legs. He's about my height.
Wow.
He's a tank.
Oh, he's a tank.
It's like 230. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think last year he was supposedly like kind of gaining weight. They were going to use him as a running back a little bit more. And then like things got messed up with the season. A couple other guys got hurt and they needed him to be like a receiver a little bit more. So he didn't get to like use his size the way that he kind of wanted to, but yeah, he's massive.
Yeah, according to Google, about 6 feet tall. So
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even so, that's crazy.
yeah. But I mean, they got him. Dre Greenlaw is insane, and then Fred Warner, of course. But then also Christian McCaffrey. And the dude's never not working. But
Yeah.
like, well, I'll let you explain it. How like if a football player goes to play basketball, though, it'll be a different story than a basketball player coming over to play football.
Well, you know, we were talking about this earlier, but Mark had a point. Like, again, yeah, I don't think, because most football players don't have the height that most basketball players do. They would need to really circumvent that lack of height with a crazy amount of skill, like Allen Iverson and Steph Curry, right? But you could probably see a good amount of taller basketball players going and playing football by packing on size. Because what do you need in football potentially to be a receiver? You need ability to be elusive, run routes. I don't watch a lot of football, by the way, but just thinking run routes, be elusive, catch, right? And be fast. And I think there's a lot of 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" basketball players that could probably have that ability on the football field. I mean, LeBron James, his other sport, if he wasn't going to be a basketball player, was being a professional football player. And he was a really good football player.
Yeah. Imagine, you know, having athletes, you know, trying different things. You know, we had that one day where we were practicing snapping the football, you know, like throwing the football between your legs to Steve Weatherford, former punter of the New York Giants. And it's like you can very easily be made to look clumsy when you try something that's new, so it's cool to be able to have the ability to mimic something. And if someone was to teach us and you were actually able to learn it, then you can kind of start to compare different feats of athleticism. But I don't know how fair it is to like pull a baseball player out of baseball and then have him like, have Barry Bonds doing like layups and dunks and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know if that like deems him less athletic. Like he's the greatest baseball player of all time.
Wasn't there a dunk?
Yeah, and he's in a dunking competition. Yeah. So he can probably handle it. And most of those guys, they probably are. I mean, a well-rounded athlete's going to be a well-rounded athlete. And one of my friends that was a proponent of Olympic lifting, he said, people just argue so much about Olympic lifting, whether it's appropriate for sports or not appropriate for sports. He goes, but it's pretty simple. The person in the room that's able to perform a snatch with the best form, with the most amount of weight, is almost always the best athlete in the room. And I was like, wow. I'm like, that's super interesting.
I mean, what? I mean, okay, I don't want to disagree straight off, but like, okay, in a room, I could understand that because if someone can perform a heavy snatch, but the thing is most athletes aren't. I mean, you're not going to see a lot of basketball players, performing heavy snatches, right?
And that's what makes all of this so confusing to try to figure out. What he was saying is that regardless of whether a athlete is really practicing it, they should still have the capacity to be able to do it.
Okay.
And so he thought in terms of not like it's going to be the best. Maybe I kind of worded it improperly. They're going to be somebody that is going to be very athletic if they can perform a snatch, even if they haven't really done one before, as opposed to the guy that like tries to do one, but for every half inch that he goes down in the squat, he keeps leaning forward more. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't have the ankle mobility, doesn't have the dexterity, doesn't have the rhythm.
As FP would say, they don't have the natural structure to do it yet. So it's like one of those things, right?
Yeah, not like one of you guys that just has the genes, the genetics.
Anyway, we got a tier
You know who's
list.
got some good genetics and we always undersell him is our boy Andrew Zaragoza.
He does.
He does because like you're fucking super athletic. We went to the 49ers and you're throwing awesome passes and catching some bombs and stuff. And
were you born with that ability to throw?
I couldn't answer that, but I was born with an older brother, and I don't know where he got that from, but I just mimicked everything he did. And I
took a little practice, right?
So like early on, like baseball coaches would come up to my dad and be like, what do you like? Is he in camps? Like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
He's like, he just copies everything his brother does. Because up until a certain point, I was like always like the best one, but only because I was the only one that can like throw it to mark, catch the ball, like at an age where like kids don't even know how to like run around the bases, know? So it's not like I was anything special, but I mean, I just was able to mimic my brother.
You had a leg up because you had practice. And then also like we went to Top Golf that one time.
Oh yeah.
And you're drilling the ball pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I was just always around sports. They were always on TV, or I was watching my brother, or I was, competing in sports as well. Up until a certain age when everybody got really, really big and strong, and I was like, I'm gonna just go play Madden instead, because I'm really good at this, and I'm not good at that anymore. Wish I would have stuck with it, but
this is a little bit more of a side note, but I used to be able to mimic all kinds of stuff when I was younger, at least it felt that way. And I would never say I was great at any of it. But I could watch stuff on TV or I could mimic something that a basketball player or a football player would do. Again, it wasn't amazing, but I was able to actually physically mimic it to the point where around friends and around amongst other people, or if I was playing a sport like football, other people would recognize it like, holy shit, that was pretty good. And my lifting over the years, without the input of continuing to practice some of that stuff, it dissipated. And it dissipated all the way to the point, where I lifted so much that I kind of made myself what you would probably consider as unathletic. Even though I was playing a sport, I guess we can argue how much of a sport is powerlifting. I don't know. I'm not offended.
It's on the list, so we'll be able to talk about it.
I'm not offended if someone says it's not a sport. I'm fine with people calling it a hobby or whatever they want, whatever the hell somebody wants to call it. I'm good with all of it. But if I did keep some of those inputs in, then I probably would have been able to keep some of that athleticism. But what I'm hoping is that I'll be able to regain it, by working on some of these things that I've been working on more recently.
Yeah. I'm tempted to like hit up Jesse Burdick and be like, let's see how hard I could throw like a baseball. Just curious to see what I got, and then maybe he can help me out with some mechanics and some lifting and stuff. But I don't know, maybe one day.
Throw some fastballs.
Yeah, with no control whatsoever.
I do think that, if you examine exactly what Shannon Sharpe said there, he said that he thinks football players are the fastest. There's just no way that that's true because they're specialists. So we can't ever discredit. I understand what he's saying, how NFL athletes can be very fast, and maybe compared to basketball players, they're fast. Maybe compared to some other sports, but there's really fast fucking people in soccer. There's really fast people in a lot of sports, and we can't forget about the specialists. We cannot forget about track. It's like you are going to get completely smoked in most situations by track athletes. However, every once in a while, there's an NFL athlete that maybe was a former track athlete, like a Tyreek Hill or somebody like that, who's pretty proficient. But normally, it kind of reminds me of, people talking about like fighting. And it's like, well, you're just going to get absolutely destroyed if you're a boxer by an MMA guy. Because an MMA guy, that's his specialty. That's what he's good at. So if you two guys box, then maybe it'd be even. But if you're going to try to grapple at all, you're going to get killed.
And then the other aspect of football is the plays. I just Googled it. Average about 7 to 8 seconds a play. So when it comes to displaying that freak athleticism, it's typically going to be in a 7 or 8 minute stint. Wow, 8 minute, I can't speak. Second stint. I don't know, like where does endurance come into play with all that? Right.
We'll see.
All right. So then I guess we said basketball, right? So basketball goes as the freak athlete?
On this tier list. Yeah, I guess, yeah, because so the tier list is titled Which Sport Has the Freakiest Athletes? And I would say that, yes, basketball has some of the freakiest athletes on planet Earth. Not just because of like their ability to run, jump, sprint, but like just the sheer freakiness of the athlete themselves. A 7-foot fucking maestro moving around the court like that, you don't see that anywhere else. Right? So I think
unbelievable.
A lot of those athletes could probably do other things and be super successful. So yeah, I'd say basketball, freak athletes. Cool. And I think, okay, can you go down the list real quick, Andrew? We have freak athlete, then what? Athletic,
and then moderate, lower, and then stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Okay. And this is within the the freakiest of those bunch. So okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. Next up is what? We have baseball right there as the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say
let's watch something real quick.
Oh yeah, let's watch that clip.
Let's watch a little something right here. And I'll mute it.
As the best athletes. This is via Bleacher Report.
Oh, our favorite source.
So they ranked them.
My favorite source.
Their
has
choice.
the best athletes.
Yes.
NFL.
No.
NBA.
No.
Don't tell me water polo.
No.
Don't you dare say.
No, it's not water polo.
Is it an Olympic sport?
No, it's not. No.
They're not going to say it's not baseball.
It's
not,
baseball.
It's baseball? What are they doing? They're
Get outta
pissing people
here.
off?
They explained
Are they
it
making
and
people
they,
angry?
Yeah, probably.
They just want to make you angry.
That's a crazy answer. They said it's because they have the greatest hand-eye coordination.
Well,
and
hitting a baseball is probably the hardest thing. Yeah, I want to get in a batting cage. Should we get in a batting cage? Rev it up to like 90 miles per hour and see if we can hit
we
it?
shouldn't do that.
All
No,
right.
that's terrible.
Well, you don't. I think I faced 90 before.
No.
as much as I get it, and there are like some baseball it's a very hard skill too. There are many athletes that are athletic. I don't think they're more athletic than like, I don't know, a pro basketball, pro football player, or a fucking track and field athlete. Like when we talk about what you got to do, let's just talk about what you got to do. Hitting the hard ball is like the hardest thing you can do. Yes. But then running them bases, right?
They ain't that far apart.
I mean, there are some very fast guys in baseball too. I'm not saying that, but I mean, I just generally like, you're not going to see the freakiest athletes in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see some freaky ass athletes, but not the freakiest.
Yeah, like how does it stack up against something like tennis?
Ooh, I think it'd be like, honestly, I think it'd be right there with tennis. I would say athletic. I think there's just too much of a range between the athletic and moderate to lower. I feel like we should have had something else there, but
It's cool. It makes it like we have to really decide.
I'd say baseball athletic.
Baseball is really interesting because, like, hitting a baseball, yes, there is a level of difficulty to that. Like it's really difficult, but just because something is really difficult doesn't mean that it requires crazy amount of athleticism. I would say that it kind of falls into a category a little bit more of like a skill.
It's a yes.
Because there was some like fat ass baseball players. I mean, Babe Ruth and stuff like that. I mean, there's like some people over the years. Cecil Fielder comes to mind, and there's like a bunch of other guys who are just like very much out of shape. Big old pear-shaped body up there.
Can you pull up a picture of Babe Ruth? I want to piss some people off.
What about Babe Ruth? You see?
Nah, you know the thing that people are thinking about Babe Ruth?
I don't know.
You're gonna love this conspiracy. What do you think? What do you think about? I want to look a picture of Babe Ruth.
I think that you're gonna say that he's part black.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he had a penchant for like loving black women.
Yeah.
Like he like slept with a lot of black women. And back in those days, if you were a white athlete sleeping with black people, what are you doing? That's the first thing. But Babe had like some he has some features.
It's like this
Not
one,
the great Bambino.
Oh,
Come on.
Zoom in on that.
I mean, dude.
Zoom in on that nose. Zoom in on them lips.
Zoom in on the
Bambino looks 50%.
Zoom in on the lower half of his uniform. Let's see what's going on downstairs. Oh yeah.
Wow. Who knows?
I had to even like.
I'm not going to say it, but like, yeah, that's him. That's him. The great, what is he? The Great White Hope?
The great.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he was called that, but he's.
I think that was a boxer in a movie.
I know. We don't have the whites. Don't have any hope.
No,
we got to just be like
Christian McCaffrey.
We just have to champion water polo and stuff like that. How about some hockey? Hockey is a tough sport.
It is actually. It is.
It is a tremendously.
We have it on the
tough
tier list.
sport.
All right, but so where would you guys rate baseball? Like, because honestly, like the throwing in the field too, like the way those guys have to like
That's
throw
crazy,
with super
yeah.
precision to these pinpoint gloves on the other side of the field.
Baseball, just like it probably would maybe make the top 10 for me. Like it might be towards the bottom.
It's tough because if you grade it as a whole, right? Like there's some designated hitters. They just hit.
True.
And then in the American League, the pitchers don't
pitch.
bat. They just pitch.
A lot of specialists.
So it's like,
So are we going to put it at moderate or lower?
I personally, I have a hard time putting it anything less than athletic. But I mean, you can make an argument like, well, if it's a skill, then it's close to golf. And
This is tough. I feel like we should then place that moderate. The baseball lovers are going to get really mad at us, but like it should be like maybe middle of the road.
It's real. I think it's rare. Like maybe I haven't known enough like high level baseball players, but it's rare for them to be what I would consider to be like a mutant.
yeah, it's gotten better.
Other than Kenny, well, the current baseball players right now in Major League Baseball, they are mutants. But in comparison to the biggest freaks around, they don't stack up, I don't think.
All right, so moderate. Y'all let us know, like roast us if you think we're wrong on some of this shit.
Yeah, and then also with like some names of some big leaguers right now, because like I'm just not familiar with a lot of the players these days.
I know. I don't know the names that well either. I did see they were talking a lot about like Mike Trout the other day about he's like he's got a bunch of injuries and he's kind of falling off, but he's more towards like the end of his career. So I don't even know who's great and shit like that at the moment.
What else do we got? All right. Want to watch this one?
No, not yet. Let's go to the next sport. We got 33 to go through.
Shit. I can't even see what this is.
Okay, let me pull up the list on my phone.
Looks like I can see.
I just want to kind of add something in while we're sorting through some of this. The hard thing here, I think, is to define athlete. I think that's a tough thing, and Nsima, what do you think are a couple, maybe we can come up with just a couple characteristics quickly of somebody that is an awesome athlete?
Well, I mean, again, it kind of depends on your sport, but like, for example, I think it's first like what people don't think of as an awesome athlete. When you look at jiu-jitsu, okay, it came up. It's on the list too. But when you look at jiu-jitsu, a lot of people comment, you don't actually need to be super athletic to be a real good grappler, which is very true. There's this guy, Adam Wardzinski, who just won Worlds. He's not very strong. He's not very explosive. He's He's not very big, but he has great technique and he's very fluid with the way he moves and does it. So he literally just won a world championship and has won some really big tournaments. But he's not somebody who you would be able to see doing like high jumping, sprinting, explosive movement, etc. So when you think of an athlete, you think of someone who maybe has those capacities. They have the capacity to be pretty explosive. They have capacity to probably throw something pretty hard. They have the capacity to be pretty fluid with their movement, fast, fairly strong, not super strong, but they're fairly strong for what they're able to do, right? That's what I would probably initially think is kind of like a freaky athlete.
Yeah. And jiu-jitsu was created for that though, right?
Yeah.
For the smaller guy anyways.
Exactly. It's like you the whole thing is you don't have to be super athletic, super strong, super big to be a good grappler. And you don't.
We can like split hairs and try to figure out who's the greatest athlete. I know that sometimes people want to pick the most decorated athlete, you know, like a Michael Phelps or something like that. But swimming, you know, I would say that most people would probably agree. They would probably think Michael Jordan over Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
I think it's just when you're thinking about athleticism, and I think what MJ was able to do, like how explosive he was, you know, how explosive and strong is he? I'm not saying that Michael Phelps isn't strong and explosive, but you don't really see that demonstration, or at least it's less understood through the activity that he chose, the sport that he chose to do. With Jordan, it was very obvious, and there was other people that could mimic. There's other people that could do what Jordan did, but he did it all kind of differently. Like there's Scottie Pippen dunked from the free throw line too. Actually, he dunked a step and a half back from where Jordan was. Jordan was actually slightly over the free throw line. No one gives a fuck because Jordan did it with a certain finesse, a certain style, and a certain athleticism, all the way to the point no one's ever seen athleticism like that before. And obviously Jordan won championships and he was extremely competitive. But I think whatever that trait is of athleticism that we can't, is kind of an intangible that's like a little bit hard to describe. He had that in spades. He had that like over anybody maybe to ever walk the face of the earth. And I know there's a lot of other great athletes and people are like, what about this guy? And what about that guy? I think Jordan probably would be at least in everyone's top 5.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious of his athletic prowess.
Yeah. And something to think about as we're going through all these sports too. When we say which sport, I guess, which sport has the freakiest athletes, at the top of any sport, the athletes are freaky. Let's just be real there. At the top of all these sports, you got some freaks. But it's just we're thinking of like, okay, out of all of these sports where at the top there are freaks there, out of the who's the freakiest out of the already freaky, and that's how we're ranking this, right?
Like, you can't forget about someone like Mike Tyson, who was explosive, had endurance. I mean, just the list of stuff goes on and on. But he might be someone a little bit uncoordinated, maybe with some other things. But you see him like jumping rope. We showed video of that before, where he's able to get really low and he's able to be super fast. And then I think one of the greatest athletes of all time for multiple reasons, but he has great dexterity and footwork and speed, was Muhammad Ali.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when he's young. I mean, it's like he made fighting look like graceful. Mm-hmm. Like that's a tough sport to pretty up, but he was able to do it.
Yeah.
All right. And I think, okay, this is the last thing I'll mention. I think one thing to think about too is like, to get to the pinnacle of said sport, how athletic does one need to actually be? Right? So to get to the NFL, generally you probably got to be to get to the pinnacle of baseball. And I'm not saying it's not difficult, but you might just need to be a big hitter, which is not easy. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, you might not need to be super explosive. You might need to be able to have the power to hit that ball and have the accuracy to hit it consistently, but doesn't necessarily mean like maybe, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So anyway.
There's some crazy levels to all of it.
Yeah. I think that next thing right there is, that next one is jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay.
And I would actually put jiu-jitsu like either at lower or stay in your lane. Actually, I'd put a stay in your lane. Because like don't get me wrong, there are some freaky athletes in jiu-jitsu, but it's like compared to everything else, nah, you know?
It's one of the great things about jiu-jitsu, right? Is that you don't have to really you don't have to look the part, and you don't have to be able to catch a football and be able to do layups and behind the back dribbling and stuff. Like you don't have to be super coordinated.
Oh, you have to be coordinated.
I'm sure you have to be coordinated.
But not like that kind of coordinated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no. I mean, no disrespect to like any of the great grapplers right now, but like Gordon Ryan's not gonna go, be able to defend a wide receiver or anything like that, at a high level. Like it's just not gonna happen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Damn, that sucks. Okay. Was this bodybuilding?
It looks like bodybuilding. I would automatically also kind of put that as stay in your lane. Or lower or stay in your lane. Because, okay, bodybuilding, what does it mean? You, if you become a really good bodybuilder, you have a good, like, muscle insertions, right? And you have the ability to build muscle. But there's a reason why 90% of bodybuilders don't sprint.
Right.
They'll pull something immediately. Some of them maybe could jump, but they ain't going to take that risk. Even I think we saw Bumstead doing some dunks, but he was told not to do that, right?
Yeah. When he landed, he was like, ow, that shit hurt.
Yeah. So I'd rank bodybuilding pretty low.
And again, when you get to that high level, you're like, well, what about Ronnie Coleman? I saw him do splits and stuff like that. Again, we're not saying that they're not good athletes. We're just saying like the requirement is low and you're not going to see kind of the freakiest. But in bodybuilding, where you do see these genetic deviations that you like just otherwise would not even know existed, the sport of bodybuilding is amazing. It has incredible competitors in there. Where people have size and muscularity and even movement and mobility. Sometimes Flex Wheeler was really mobile. He could do like splits and stuff like that when he posed.
He was a martial artist when he was younger.
Yep. Arnold always seemed like, there's videos of Arnold like jogging and shit like that. And he looks like a normal person jogging. He doesn't look like some lumbering, lifter. He doesn't look all stiff. So it's definitely possible for those guys to kind of have these other attributes, but it's not something that requires a lot of athleticism.
Yeah.
So we're all the way down here?
Yeah.
Okay,
down pretty low.
Down low. We don't spend much time here, but bowling?
Bowling. I'd actually put that at freak athlete. I'd put that
they can get super hammered and still like do good.
Hey, bowling's a game of precision. It's a game of precision. You don't have skill. It's just,
It's a huge skill set.
Yeah, we should have another tier list later where we talk about like skill.
I think golf is kind of a combination of skill and some other, right? It's like a little combo of things, but it's not really, it's hard because like when you think about the sport and you think about what the sport makes somebody sort of look like, so like this strongman, for example, like the requirement of the amount of weight you have to lift in strongman, it just requires these athletes that are humongous. They're very, very tall because it's helpful to have longer arms. It's also helpful to have large hands with a lot of the grip stuff that they do. And it's really helpful to have a huge frame. So these tall guys, from the time they're probably in their mid to late 20s, they start gaining a lot of weight. And they're like, this is a sport I'm going to do. They get themselves to be like 400 pounds. And they look the part, and with CrossFit sort of the best CrossFitters are usually of similar size. They're usually like between 5'7" and 5'9", and they weigh like 190 to like 210. And that's pretty much been every single the champion CrossFitter. So a sport like golf, you can kind of tell it doesn't require some crazy amount of athleticism, such as something like wrestling, because wrestlers and sprinters, those kind of sports, those people are always jacked. Maybe not super jacked all the time, but they're always very lean. Where something like golf, you don't have to necessarily be lean. I would say that you don't necessarily have to be ultra athletic, but there is a lot of athleticism and rhythm to being able to swing a golf club properly to be able to do the things you need to do on a golf course.
Yeah. So, Andrew, do you see the golf right there? Because we have golf on this list. It's right there.
Okay, I got
it. So where do you want to place golf, Mark?
Oh, I'd put it down at the bottom.
Down at the bottom?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. They do walk a lot, but they're not freak athletes, I don't think.
They do.
I thought Andrew had a nosebleed going on over there for a second.
Nope, just my brain's leaking, so I can't think straight today.
Meat. It's time to gobble some meat. Goodlife Proteins. And all jokes aside, Goodlife Proteins is an amazing spot to be able to get your Piedmontese beef. that has amazing ratios of protein and fat. So you get more protein and a little bit less fat for every single cut of steak. But they also have fish, they have lobster, they have picanha, which is beef. They have so many different types of meat. So you can pretty much move forward on your diet, get in better shape, take advantage of the things that we talk about here on the podcast in terms of protein leveraging, carnivore, if that's your business, keto, if that's your business. But you can all different types of meat to move you forward. And everything is the highest quality from Goodlife Proteins. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at goodlifeproteins.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 20% off your entire order. Or if you want to save even more, use promo code POWERPROJECT to save an additional 5% off your build box. Again, goodlifeproteins.com. Link is in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
All right, so right there you have Andrew boxing.
Box ale, yeah.
Boxing, they do have some freaks. I mean, not every, well, yeah, they top level boxing. It's a freaky sport. You need to be, you don't only need like precision and hand-eye coordination, like it's also good rhythm coordination on throwing punches, dodging punches. Yeah, I'd put that at athletic.
Yeah, I don't think you can put it any lower than that for sure. I think boxing requires, I mean, there's a lot of footwork. In fact, even just like learning some boxing stuff when I was young, I remember like how awkward some of it felt. Stuff in football actually never really seemed awkward because I think if you have like some basic athleticism, then you can figure out the moves in football because they're not really that complicated. Obviously, the receivers and some of these guys, they're going to be able to move differently. They're going to be able to move on like a different level. But it's interesting, you know, when you try to actually think about like what does it feel like to play that sport? You know, what does it require? And you think about like MMA or wrestling, where it requires so much movement, and if you just don't have much mobility, you're super limited in some of these sports. Where other sports you can maybe get away with it. I don't know. It's just fascinating.
And then, so something else I was just thinking about, and I don't know, maybe make an argument to try to pull jiu-jitsu out of the
I knew you were going to do it. I was thinking the same thing. Go for it.
Well, maybe it's something different, so then we can have an even stronger argument. But boxers don't really get tired. Their gas tank is forever. And some of the dudes at the top of jiu-jitsu, I mean, they're going 30-minute matches. Like some of them just nonstop. Some of them, of course, lots of start and stopping. But like it just seems like they never get tired. And it's like, oh, how many training sessions did you have, you know, this week? And it's like 2-3 times a day. And it's like, holy shit. Like, I guess maybe that's not a freakish thing, but I don't know, man. It just, to me, I can't really ignore that.
I wouldn't even use that as the point because there's a lot of sports like swimming, right? We have swimming on the list.
Yeah.
Just great swimmers can swim forever, right? But I would more so like say with jiu-jitsu, even though, like, for example, you gave the example for Gordon Ryan, who probably isn't going to go sprinting anywhere, right? His, I guess, ability to, or any of those top level grapplers' ability to like subdue and like to beat any type of opponent they're grappling with. It's like, even though there's a skill, there's also a lot of isometric strength that a lot of people don't see when it comes to some of these guys. Like, for example, the guy brought up Adam Wardzinski. You see what he does. There's a lot of isometric strength when he's holding these people in these positions, right? So I would put it at lower or moderate. That's where I would place jiu-jitsu, but I wouldn't put it as like athletic because, again, I guess it's just a different type of athleticism that these sports need. I'd say for now, put it at lower.
Yeah.
It might change at some point. But.
To be able to, again, the main topic here is like, I guess, like what sport has the freakiest athletes, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that there has been a huge shift in jiu-jitsu recently to where you're starting to see more freak athletes. And I think that's been the excitement, especially with no-gi jiu-jitsu, that the athleticism has gone through the roof. You guys have shown me videos before of some of these young guys that do stuff that like no one's ever done before. Like they'll
extremely
fucking do like a backflip or something to get out of a move or something crazy. It's just, there's some wild shit going on in jiu-jitsu, but the ability to take someone that's very, very strong, like it almost doesn't matter how strong somebody is. I guess it always kind of matters, right? Yeah. But we all know how strong someone like Larry Wheels is. It's just super fascinating that a guy that weighs 160 that's skilled enough in jiu-jitsu could take somebody like that has that amount of strength and subdue them, like you said. Mm-hmm. And to even worse than that, like just kind of put them wherever they want. That is an amazing skill that almost kind of makes you think like it's so skillful that you're like, that's something different than just skill. It's hard.
It's different than bowling.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like mute that one. It's hard to be like, because MJ, we're just saying like is maybe one of the greatest of all time, and then who's going to look worse? Jordan playing some basketball against Hoist Gracie, or Hoist Gracie doing some jiu-jitsu with Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan's he's gonna look worse. Like, so what? You fucking made a couple layups, but I just choked you out. I just broke your arm. I just broke your leg. So that sport is fascinating. I think any of the grappling sports have to also get a lot of props for the amount of endurance that it takes. Yeah. And boxing too. That takes a lot of endurance. Yeah.
Again, a skill tier list would make things look a little bit different. So like
we'll use that for a different time.
Yeah.
So we're putting boxing at athletic?
I think so.
All right, boop,
yeah.
Boop, boop. Well, bam.
Next one is bouldering or rock climbing.
Rock climbing.
Huh. I saw a video recently of like one of the world's greatest rock climbers, and he was doing like these 1 finger pull-ups for reps.
Yeah.
And like there's certain things that he goes up where he'll use his 2 fingers as a hook, hang his whole body off, and then grab, right? Like these people, the strength of their hands and their dexterity in their hands or their feet is pretty wild.
So if you go like top down, you take an athlete like that, and you would imagine with that kind of strength to weight ratio that they could do a lot of other things. Now, maybe they go to do a jump shot. And it's the corniest looking jump shot you've ever seen in your life. But relatively speaking, running, stopping, starting, cutting, jumping, like you would just assume pull-ups, push-ups are going to be super easy for an athlete like that.
Extremely. Yeah. I'd put it over at like, I'd say moderate. Okay, so again, this is tough because when we always pull stuff into this tier list, like, oh, think about this. But even though I'm thinking about like the freakiest athletes when I look at some of this stuff, for climbing, there is a barrier of entry to strength to weight ratio. Like, if you're very big and very weak, you're not climbing.
Nope.
Right.
And maybe even if you're just really big, like if you're just like an NFL athlete, like a lineman, obviously some of them are strong enough to do it at 300
linemen
pounds.
Specifically, yeah.
But it's like more rare, right?
Yeah, for linemen specifically, they're so heavy that it would be hard. Like it's probably hard for some of those guys to even do a few pull-ups. Right. So, I mean, at the top level of climbing, these people are ridiculous. The way that they're scaffolding and stuff. So I would put it no lower than moderate.
Yeah, and I guess like I think I am picking up like kind of your thought process there. Like you go into a rock climbing gym and you're not overwhelmed by the athletes that you see in there, And the same thing can probably be said most of the time when you go to most jiu-jitsu classes. Again, the guys are probably fucking awesome on the mat, but you're probably not like, oh my God, I'm in over my head. Everyone's so fast. Everyone's so this, everyone's so that, until you actually engage in the skill of jiu-jitsu. Whereas in something like basketball, it's just like clear how tall and how different the other people are built, which is, again, I think is just because it's interesting to try to pick this apart and try to figure out, what sport has the freakiest, most mutated athletes. But again, I think, if you look at football, it just has so much money behind it. There's so many people kind of gunning for that and training for that when they're kids. But most people in other sports they fail at the big 3 or big 5 or whatever, to a certain extent. Like I'm a failed football player. Like I don't have
failed soccer player.
Yeah. I don't have any shame in saying that. That's my dream when I was a kid. That's what I wanted to do, was to play football, and I trained for it. And then it ended up, that I found a sport that I liked, but it wasn't my first choice. I got we kind of got shoved in a particular direction, and that direction ended up working out great. So he leaned into it harder, I guess you'd say.
All right, so moderate.
Moderate.
Where we're putting it. Oops, messed that up. Well, bam. All right, was that cricket?
That looks like cricket. You might
Yeah.
just be right.
I don't know how to play cricket, so I couldn't tell
Totally
you.
know much
Pull up a
about
quick YouTube cricket video.
Let's do this.
it. We might have to call up Chris Williamson. He looks like
Did he
he's
play
played-
cricket?
He just looks like he's played some cricket.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Cricket highlights.
Highlights. Yeah, let's look at some cricket highlights.
Do you get to like hit each other in cricket?
No, but like we talked to somebody and they're like, yeah, the games are like 3 days long or something.
Oh
like
yeah.
that. I don't know, dude. I mean, that guy doesn't look too impressive. Or is that a ref? I can't
Did
even
his shirt
tell.
say KFC on
I
it?
think so.
Oh yeah, KFC. Why is it sponsored by KFC? That's great.
Oh, fuck. That would be impossible to hit that, though.
Oh my God.
Wow, their highlights are not exciting.
There's so many,
This just kind of reminisced to me about baseball. There's so much like starting and stopping.
a lot
You know
of
what I mean?
standing around.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you can't
I
swing
like
at
the
that
sound
one.
effects. What is that guy doing? It's like a pitcher, a batter, and then there's like a goal.
That's
Like,
the ref, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on, guys.
All right, I'd put it at either lower or stay in your lane.
Yeah,
They
you
all
gotta
got
pro.
oven mitts on.
And hey, for all the cricket fans, maybe there's just like an American lack of knowledge here about how
These
athletic
guys, these
cricketers
guys
are.
in particular look like they suck.
I was just gonna say, like, that's why I paused it. Like, I don't know what the
These are
person
probably
that
the greatest
hits-
guys of all time.
This is like the T20 World Cup highlights for India versus Australia.
Yeah.
So
is pretty high, right? Why do they got such a long running start?
Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on.
all right, let's just put it at lower, stay in your lane. Move on.
Yeah, fuck it. Hey, learn something every
We'll make
day.
another podcast about us reacting to cricket matches.
Dude, I'm
It'd be
down.
3 hours long. We'll just talk through it the whole
It'll be
time.
a couple days long.
Yeah.
I can't see what this next one is in Nsima. I'm sorry.
Let's see. That looks like
Is it ollie lifting?
that's CrossFit.
Oh, fuck. I can't see. Ooh, cross the fit.
Hey man, CrossFit. There's a range. It's a range of like lifting, right? And some running, right?
I think where we run into a problem is where we start comparing sports because it's like, okay, how many athletes exist that are like Rich Froning? It's like very few, unless they're in CrossFit. But then if you say, oh, what could he do on the basketball court? It's like, well, it's like, that's not fair, right?
Right.
So you have to try to keep them separated.
I gotta keep the consistency of
Yeah,
thought.
well,
Yeah.
so what I would say is that there is a lot of freaks in CrossFit because, again, what Greg Glassman originally produced was this 5 or 6 week online. We all get to go against each other throughout the whole world, and then we get to figure out who the fittest in the world is. It's the biggest. It's the biggest competition that I know of. I don't know of any other competition that has that many participants. So we'll start out with like a few 100,000, and then it dwindles down to a champion. And they find arguably the fittest man or fittest woman on earth. I realize that people are like, what about Iron Man? And what about those other sports? They don't really require, there's no lifting component. There's not a multitude of other things that you have to be good at. CrossFit is trying to blend, like, this guy is strong, like not just like reasonably strong, but or female. They're very, very strong. It's not like just someone who ekes out. It's not a guy that just ekes out a 315 deadlift. I mean, these are guys that can usually handle 400 or 500 pounds pretty easy. They're drug tested athletes. They weigh about 200 pounds. And then they're also running like 6-minute miles or even faster, sometimes multiple miles in a row. I mean, I have a lot of respect for CrossFit. I think that there is a lot of good athletes in CrossFit because there is a pretty good amount of money on the line. And then not only is there a pretty good amount of money if you're the ultimate champion, but there's also some financial gain. And I have friends that have made a living off of like just trying to be like awesome at CrossFit.
Okay. Where'd you rank it? I'm gonna let you rank this one. This is gonna be your throw, not mine.
Yeah, I'd probably stick it on the third one. What's that one say?
Moderate.
Yeah, moderate. I'd probably stick it there. I don't think it's not big enough. There's not enough money in it to kind of take it to that next level. You know, if it was like,
We put baseball at moderate and shit.
Got to make some choices.
Yeah.
I guess so. What I was going to make an argument for, but maybe I guess if you were to put all gym related sports in that same moderate level, then this totally crushes it. But if you have every lifting discipline, like somebody representing each of them in a gym, I don't think you would be able to outwork a CrossFitter. Well, at the top tier, right? You could say like, oh yeah, but they're not going to deadlift 1,000 pounds. It's like, yeah, but the person that's deadlifting 1,000 pounds is probably not going to be able to do, whatever, insert athletic movement, muscle ups to whatever for 1,000 reps, right?
Right.
Yeah. To your point too, with that line of logic, CrossFitters, there is a breadth of things that they're pretty decent at, right? Whereas again, when you look at like powerlifting, SBD, right? And when you become very, very, very good at SBD, very good, not just that you just do it, but when you've built the changes to your body to become very good at this, you kind of remove the ability to do other things that like sprinting, good range of motion, etc. Like it's like you're a specialist.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, I think it has to go athletic, in my opinion. Because man,
we'll put it athletic then.
Yeah, we'll put it there.
Yeah, the only reason why, like for me, I wouldn't put it much higher, just because like there's something about, I don't know how to like word this the right way. It's like not popular enough of a sport.
Gotcha.
Like the more popular something is, the bigger populace the sport's going to have access to. It's kind of like a smaller high school. A smaller high school here in Sacramento that has a graduating class of 500 people just in no way could compete with going down to Texas and playing football against those monsters, because I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, like people try to move to certain areas to play on those specific teams, and there's shit like that happens too. But just a school that has 2,000 in their graduating class, they're going to have a much larger pool of people to choose from, period. And so therefore most likely they'll have better athletes. And I think with people gunning for the NFL, NBA, and those kinds of things, you don't really, and then CrossFit also, again, kind of to Nsima's point, the type of training and the type of stuff that they do, if you're 6'3", it doesn't make it impossible. You can still be great at CrossFit and be 6'3", but it makes it more difficult. So it's like a very specific, like sized person and kind of person. And I do admire the skill of it. And they are required to do strongman stuff, Olympic lifting stuff, powerlifting stuff. And then they have their own dynamic workouts that take a ton of conditioning and skill. And they do like rope climbs, and they do, weighted vests, shit like that. And they do a lot of stuff that is really interesting and amazing. But in terms of them having like a lot of mutant athletes or freak athletes, it's just not even comparable in any way to like NBA, NFL, anything like that. And I do think it deserves respect to be, ranked in this list somewhere, but I don't think it gets to be that upper echelon.
Got it.
And an interesting thing that kind of falls into this line of thinking too is like when you think of an NFL player, a football player could, like any of the top football players, could absolutely be pro card bodybuilder winners in natural leagues or in drug tested league, or in the IFBB where they don't test for drugs. Any of those guys would be an IFBB pro, no doubt. They could make it to the Olympia stage. Whereas it doesn't go the other way around.
I never thought about that, but that is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look at those guys.
Yeah, especially like for them to be like IFBB pros, like in actual bodybuilding, might be a different thing. It might be harder for some guys based on position, but if you put him into any form of physique competitions, you're right. Because like you're 100% right. Because
like you look, they're not working with the same types of training volumes, but a lot of them already look like bodybuilders. So think about if you did apply those training volumes to those athletes. It's night.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's fucking interesting.
All right. So I tried fighting for the CrossFitters, but at least we didn't put high rocks above it. CrossFitters love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Was it cycling?
Cycling. So you have to pedal, but they do have crazy fucking legs, right? Yeah. I don't know if there's much money in cycling, so I don't know if you see the craziest athletes there. I'd put it at like,
it supposedly is the hardest when it comes to swimming and when it comes to running. Most people say that cycling is just, in terms of the way that it feels, you know how like just a hard set of like leg extensions or a really high rep set of like squats just feels different than just about anything else in the gym. Yeah. That's kind of what I've heard with cycling, that it's just a different level of like burn and like you just want to be done with this fucking thing. So I do admire that. I do think that that's really cool to be able to have that capacity, be able to work through that signal of like that much pain coming your way. And obviously I think that cycling itself, I think has really helped dictate how people should train for a lot of other endurance sports. So I think it's been amazing, but it is very one-dimensional. Like you're just on a bike and you're just like pedaling, and maybe I don't know enough about it to think that those people on the bike are like super athletic.
How does it like refer to your ability to be like an athletic human? You know what I mean? Because cycling is like this thing you're pedaling on.
I think it kind of hurt it almost because you're like, you're
right?
in that position.
Like these other sports are throwing, running, sprinting, jumping. And cycling is like, and don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but it's a bike.
Yeah. Do you guys think it helps or hurts the athleticism, the fact that they have to stay like a certain weight, right? Because if they get too jacked, then it's like it hurts it. So they have to stay a little bit lighter so that, I don't know, make them less freakish. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's definitely some mutants in it. I mean, because cycling is very popular worldwide. And again, they have a large selection. They got a large tank of people to choose from because a lot of people do like it. But it's like, again, it seems to me that it's kind of one-dimensional. There's probably cyclists listening that are like, no, you got to be able to do this. And I know there's other types of cycling too, other than just like Tour de France. But I would say it's similar to like running. Like marathon running, I think is like to the detriment of your athleticism.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's... I think it's like horrible kind of in a lot of ways in terms of athleticism. But there's people that love, like their favorite sports are endurance sports, and they love it and appreciate it. But I don't kind of hold that same appreciation for it, even though I love running. I think that you're just stationary and just kind of like cruising along, doing the same old thing. I think it's to your detriment.
Stay in your lane.
Stiff.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
Just gonna stay in the lane. Am I supposed to be putting these? It doesn't matter.
What?
I was going to say, like, is this better or worse than cricket?
We're not even going to worry about that.
Or horseback riding? Or what?
Equestrian.
Yeah, the water stuff.
Yeah, there's different equestrian things. There's like races, there's horse hurdles, but in general, it's just working on a horse.
I mean, the horse is a pretty good athlete.
The horse is a freak.
Yeah, the horse is doing great.
The human is about the size of this table.
That big old giant cock too, jumping over those hurdles and everything. That's got to be tough. Imagine that, being able to jump over stuff when you got a big old dick like that.
Thing, every time.
Yeah, just flopping everywhere.
You just have to keep going.
It's that white humor. You gotta go straight to the bestiality, dog. Like, you serious?
No, I didn't go there.
You did. You just commented on the big ass horse cock.
Well, they have huge cocks. I wasn't gonna suck it. I mean, I wasn't going there. I wasn't thinking about jerking it off or anything.
Oh, man.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was.
So it looks like F1 racing, but racing in general. Those guys do have to be in really good shape, especially like some of the funny car races, like that go, I don't know, fucking like 300 miles per hour or whatever.
Yeah, don't that's like handle crazy G-forces and shit.
Yeah, all around. But
super precision because they have to like, not kill each other in a car that's going how fast? How fast are those cars going?
I don't know about these ones.
200 usually.
Yeah. I was just talking about the ones that are like a couple seconds long, like straight line.
Drag racing.
Oh.
Those are fucking ridiculous. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I mean, I was in motorsports for a couple years, and I was like super out of shape and skinny, and I did just fine.
Yeah, when it comes to like, okay, like again, the human athleticism, not the skill and the precision, it's gonna be stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, here we go. Foosball.
Foosball?
Football.
Oh, well, freakiest athletes. That's where I put it.
Yeah.
These folks, like, they're just freaks, man.
Yeah.
Bo
Absolutely.
Jackson.
Yep.
All the freaks in football.
Yeah.
It's 100%.
Trying to, you know, there's, I mean, yeah, like the linemen, they're super huge and fast.
Yeah.
There's even the kickers these days are starting to get huge now. Yeah.
NFL football, there's just mutants everywhere on every team. The speed, the agility. Every year they have the NFL Combine, and you see the guys like lift and broad jump and do all these drills, and they do that crazy drill where they catch the ball and then they turn the other side and catch the ball, and like some of these guys just fly right through it.
Yeah.
Picture perfect to catch it every. I think for a lot of Americans that grew up like watching football, it's probably the easiest sport for them to like sort of identify with. And when they watch it and they see these certain athletes do certain things, I think it's easy for them to say like, oh, that's remarkable. Whereas when maybe if they're watching maybe something like soccer or watching a sport that they're not used to watching, they don't know what to look for in terms of like what's spectacular. I think it's taken a long time for the UFC to get the respect that it deserves. I think this could be, maybe we did a show like that before, but I think that is probably the hardest sport in the world. And that's where you'd start to see this whole thing flip a little bit. Cause I think that it would be interesting to take an NBA or an NFL player and have them try a bodybuilding diet and have them do like a bodybuilding prep. And they would probably come and tell you after they did that, if they did it at like 95% or even 90%, they'd probably come back and tell you that's the hardest fucking thing I ever did. Because it can be very difficult. Obviously, you get, if you do something for longer, I'm sure maybe the bodybuilding preps get a little easier. I don't know. Do they get any easier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
But something that you're saying there that I think again it would maybe change the way that we view all of these sports. It's just like the amount of money. Like what if CrossFit had the amount of money that NBA players had? Mm-hmm. What type of people would you then be seeing in CrossFit? And then how would that change the way you look at like the freakiest athletes? Yeah. Because it's like, I'm thinking about gymnastics, which is coming up right now, right? You see some freaks in gymnastics, but there's like, outside of like Olympic gymnastics, there's not much money in the sport. And it's one of those things where it's like, gymnastics is like a base that a lot of, like when you see a lot of people that have done well in CrossFit and other things, a lot of them have maybe had a gymnast base. They have ability to control their body. Great gymnasts are probably going to be great rock climbers. It's one of those things where it's just like, if you're good at gymnastics, you're probably going to be good at a lot of other things just because you have great body control.
Remember that dude came here and he did a backflip in flip-flops?
Yes. Right?
And he was actually pretty big.
Who was that?
You weren't here to see him. He was out there in the back.
Just some dude. He works at Davis Diamonds. And he's a gymnast, and he just came by. I think he knows Graham's wife a little bit or something like that because they train people out of that facility. And so anyway, he hit up. Yeah, he just like was telling us he does gymnastics. He's like, "You want to see a backflip?" We're like, "Sure." Yeah, he just randomly did a backflip.
Man, and with gymnastics, I mean, like with the flips, the body control, the things that these people are doing, I mean, that does take athleticism. Like, it truly does. I don't think you can be a good gymnast and not be a good athlete.
I think they're freaks. I would put them like maybe in that second category.
Athletic?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Being able to handle the stresses of your day, the stress of exercise, and being able to stick to your nutrition plan takes good rest and good quality sleep the night before. And if your mouth is opening during sleep, or if you're snoring, well, your sleep quality is compromised. That's why we partnered with the best mouth tape in the game, Hostage Tape. If you have a beard, it's going to stay on. If you have a CPAP, it's going to stay on. This tape is not going to fall off your mouth like most other tapes do when you're asleep. And to enhance the way you breathe through your nose, they also have nose strips.
Head over to hostagetape.com/powerproject where you can get a 3-month supply of hostage tape for only 65 cents a night.
On top of that, you're going to receive a free pack of nail strips as well as a bedside tin. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
What about like shot put or track? We have that on there somewhere?
Shot put's going to be in track and field, and I think...
Is that what this is? I can't.
No, this looks like handball. Is this hand? Yeah, this is handball.
Handballs?
Handball...
What is handball? Is that where you hit the ball against the wall?
I think it's a...
And then the other guy's got to return it off the wall? Or
Yeah, I think so.
Let's look it up real quick.
I think it's just like racquetball, but with your hand.
Just look up handball highlights real quick.
All right.
It's right there.
Handball highlights.
Handball highlights.
We're going to be watching this all day.
Handball highlights. Olympic. It's an Olympic sport?
Hey.
Fuck now.
I'm like, this better not be the blind one that I was fucking up with.
No. Wait, what the hell is this?
This is
Didn't Lewis
Portugal,
House
right?
play handball? Wasn't he a handball guy?
Was
Wait,
it?
do I not know what handball is then?
No, you're on handball. This is handball.
Wait, this is like soccer? But
See,
with
I
your
told you.
hands?
See, aren't you happy you looked it up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
I thought this was
Dude,
a
I'm about to
racket
go and fuck
like
this sport up.
a little blue ball.
Oh, dude.
It's kind of
Look
like
at that. This looks
like
fun.
Ooh, it's kind of like rugby, except you're not tackling each other, right?
Dude, I'm going to the next Olympics. Look at this guy's hair. Where the fuck I am now. Here we go. All right. We're putting it at lower.
What do you think? Lower?
Yeah, it's got to be as low as possible.
Okay, we can go lower than low.
Well, I mean, think about it. You're still running. You're running.
There's people
Is it
listening.
more,
Excuse me,
is it more
I play-
athleticism than golf? Right? Probably more
Yeah,
athleticism
more
than
than
golf. And there are going to be some people that are mad when we say it has more athleticism than bodybuilding. But I'd say a bodybuilder on that handball court would not apply.
Not do well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they jump? I don't get that part.
Maybe you have to jump.
Oh, it's
can't
part of
have your
like
feet
You
you
have to
can't.
jump when scoring.
Oh, that's
Yeah, you got to
part of
jump.
the I gotta
You
look up the
be-
rules. I don't know when the next Olympics is.
This
but I'm
looks like
going.
this reminds me as a kid, just like playing in the
That's
pool,
what
like
I'm
making
saying.
up rules on the fly.
They all-
do that way. As soon as you start losing, you change the rules.
You look at a bodybuilder running. Look at a bodybuilder trying to jump. Like it's when we think of athleticism in the way we're talking about athleticism right now, it's not athletic.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take anything away from bodybuilders. It's impressive to look at, but it's as far as like athletic movement, it's not there.
I also want to say, you know, when we've mentioned this many times on many podcasts, but I think it's always worth bringing up. Not everyone, when they do bodybuilding or powerlifting, has to lose their ability to have athleticism.
True.
There might be a regression, kind of almost no matter what you do, even if you kept playing football and you kept bodybuilding or you kept doing soccer and kept bodybuilding, like maybe the soccer, maybe some of the way that you kick the ball and maybe some different things would change a little bit, but they don't have to. And it's just kind of up to you. So I just think that's always worth mentioning because I know we've talked a lot about how to like gain athleticism. And one of the best ways to gain athleticism is to do it from the time you're young and learn it when you're young and have it kind of embedded into your body and then just never lose it. Never turn your back on it for long enough to where it dissipates or disappears.
Looks like we got hockey next.
Oh, yeah.
Shit. Skating around on ice. Think about
That's
like
a lot of skill.
that's a lot of skill, but then it also like there's a lot of like when you see the range of motion their legs get into as they're skating at those high speeds, that like I wonder what that feels like. I've never skated like that before, but man, it's not easy. I've skated on ice.
I'd say hockey
slowly.
has to be right up there with the NBA and NFL.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's just, I just don't think it gets any respect. It's a tough ass sport.
I agree.
There's a lot of contact in it. There's nearly as many games. They have nearly as many games as basketball,
And then
which is unbelievable because like the NFL, you know, has like a fourth of the games or something, right? It's got like 16, 17 games.
And I think each period is like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of them. So each game's 45 minutes. I had to do math.
And also speaking more upon like the athletes being freaks, the athletes a lot of times are huge. I don't think people know that. A lot of these hockey players are 6'4", 6'5". It's not uncommon for them to be 230, 240, 250. I mean, there's some big motherfuckers out there. It's wild.
A lot of pro hockey players could probably be pro football players,
Right.
right? I mean, I don't watch much hockey. I'm looking
Yeah,
at some stuff right now.
I have a longtime friend that has trained a lot of hockey players. We should try to get him on the show. His name is TR. He trains people out of Gold's Gym in Venice. and he's trained like, I don't know, maybe like 20 Hall of Fame hockey players.
Wow.
So he definitely knows what's up. I know all of our Canadian listeners are probably pretty pumped that we're putting hockey up top, but I think it just has to go there. I mean, it's a brutal sport.
Yeah, I just know that like it for whatever reason doesn't hit general like population for Americans, but like when you watch, especially the playoffs, it might be the most exciting sport to watch.
It's fast.
It's just hard because we're stupid and we got to follow this black dot on the screen and I lost it, therefore it lost my attention. But like it's wild, dude. It's really good stuff.
Just on a random note, I think I saw that the WNBA signed a deal for $200 million. Like
Caitlin Clark's bringing in that money.
Yeah, a media deal. I was like, wow, good for them. That's fucking cool.
Because of Clayton Clark, you heard her, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking hates her.
Dude.
She's like MJ.
She's
back in the
badass,
day.
dude.
I feel like it's so sad because like people are trying to take it away from her saying like, you know, she got a big contract even before she got into the WNBA, and some players like, oh, it's because she's white or whatever. It's because she plays like Steph Curry.
Yeah, she's fucking dope.
You know, she's amazing.
Yeah, it's like that crabs in a bucket right now with the WNBA. She's Anyway, I've never ever. Let me make sure. Yep, never paid attention to the WNBA until Caitlin Clark.
Same.
And
I think it's really cool. I think it's a change. You know, when you watch Sports Center, like I drop in on Sports Center every once in a while just to like try to follow some shit on sports. I don't always love seeing like political shit or the news in general. So I just like to watch just sports sometimes because it doesn't really matter that much or mean much. But I do like to kind of keep up with it a little bit. I love watching like athletics and shit like that. And there's been so many more like, and especially with the Olympics coming up.
Yeah.
But there's been so much more stuff with women on it. I'm thinking like, that's a change for me from my old ass. And so it's a little different. I don't want to sit there and watch that very, very long. However, I think it's fucking awesome. And I think it's great for especially, young women that are watching that and they now have people to emulate.
You're getting soft on us.
Cool. Yeah.
Is this power walking?
Power walking. You got to move your hips.
Or is it just?
I think maybe it's marathon running because like I see something like sprinting. So I guess they separated track and field and just unfortunately. So
there's a great clip of power walking with the guy from Breaking Bad. What's that guy? Brian Cranston. Bryan Cranston. I don't know if you can look that up, but it's in a show from a long time ago. It's hilarious.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Is that what it is?
I just remember him from Malcolm in the Middle. That must be.
Oh man, this is amazing. Do you have any audio on it?
Yeah. Oh god.
Dad?
Huey.
Power walking.
Like watching the gods return to Olympus.
Oh, hello. Excuse me. Hey, what is this called? We're race walking. I've never seen anything like it. The style, the grace.
Well, it's not all just about looking good. It's the best low-impact aerobic exercise ever invented, despite what you hear from all those Tai Chi punks.
Yeah, but how do you do it?
Well, the International Race Walking Federation specifies you must have one foot on the ground at all times. And your front leg must remain straight till it's completely under you.
So, something like this?
Hey, I think you got it. Look at that, guys. I think we got ourselves a natural.
He like loses his mind.
I can walk.
So I think after seeing that clip, if walking wasn't on the list, it now needs to be on the list and just put it right to the top. Because those are obviously high level.
Some freaky ass athletes.
Mm-hmm. You got to be able to swivel those hips.
Yeah.
That ain't easy.
You got to have the mobility, I guess.
Yeah, marathon running has got to be bottom of the barrel. It's cool from an endurance standpoint and what people can do and what they can handle. It's awesome. But you're not going to see the freakiest like athletes as we I guess, view athletes.
Current, like in this tier list of how we're viewing athletes. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, because you want an athlete to have power, you want them to have explosiveness, you want them to be able to rotate and like all these other things. And a lot of marathon runners, I think you'll find that they're pretty like busted up.
They are, yeah. I think this next one is MMA. It doesn't look like just boxing. MMA.
Yeah, MMA.
All right, MMA, man. I'd put at least athletic. I don't. Okay, so you see some like athletic guys in MMA, very athletic guys in MMA, but I don't think you see the freakiest of the freaky, just because MMA doesn't invite the ability for there to be a mass pool of just people that are doing a sport. Along with that, like most kids that are like, again, really good athletes are heading into the other sports. Yeah. So you'll see some freaky athletes in MMA, but you're not seeing, I don't know. I'd say athletic.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think there's not enough money in the sport. There's like, to say there's security in pro sports is like not the right word really, but I think that people know that if you make it in the NFL, you're able to get drafted and you're able to play a little bit in the NFL. You play for a couple of years, you can make a living off of that and you can kind of pivot into doing some other things, but you'll make, I think the league minimum is like $350K, and then you get paid like an extra $150K for every year you're in the league. So if you can hang on, you'll make some decent money. MMA doesn't have anything like that. Maybe you get like a couple fight contract. I have no idea what the money looks like, but it's nothing crazy. And I think even like Bones Jones, who's considered one of the all-time greats, I think the amount of money that he made in MMA, I don't think is, I think most people would be surprised to learn that he's the best of the best and hasn't made, hundreds of millions of dollars from the sport like someone like maybe Conor McGregor was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Yeah. Put it at athletic.
All right. What's the next one? Tennis? Or is that pickleball? That looks like pickleball.
All right. Just stay in your lane.
Did they not put tennis on?
Yeah, it's on here.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Somewhere. I just saw it. Yeah, right here. We can just go straight to tennis if you want.
Let's take pickleball real quick. You put pickleball and stay in your lane already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that pickleball probably, requires, a decent amount of athleticism, but I think one of the draws to it is that it's a
close court.
Yeah, it's slower than tennis, right?
Yeah.
So it's the reason why it got popular is that it's like it's a little more chill, like it's not as hard as tennis.
Yeah. You get and that's the great thing. That's why I keep telling people, hey, try some pickleball out because you can be old and just
I never tried it. Have you guys played it at all?
I haven't.
Yeah,
I've watched it though. Pickleball is like it's cool though because you get that lateral movement. Your eyes having to watch this thing. You're going to be swinging a racket. It's a great sport.
Man, a lot of stopping and starting. Like that shit's not easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's this next one, Nsima?
That looks like powerlifting. That's a guy in front of a deadlift bar.
Okay.
Mark, you take it away for this.
Oh
one.
my
I don't want to.
Powerlifting? Powerlifting goes right to the top, bro. Powerlifting, it's as Louis Simmons once said, it's a sport for the rest of us. Meaning like we weren't able to make it doing anything else. And so I think it goes at the bottom. I think it goes into the stay in your lane. However, I do think that occasionally we get graced with an amazing athlete that just hasn't been exposed to playing other sports that, maybe they didn't excel at a sport. Maybe they didn't find a sport. But I think, someone like Larry Wheels comes to mind. I think he just has a very unconventional upbringing when he was younger. And I think if that guy played football or it's just like, he seemed like he was built for some of that stuff.
He was.
And there's a lot of athletes that are pretty awesome in powerlifting, but I would say in my time in powerlifting, it was rare for me to even ever learn that anyone had like any crazy athletic background ever. Like Steph Cohen, played some soccer, and I think she played at like a pretty good level.
National team.
Yeah. So props to her, and like that's cool. But like, but aside from that, I can't really. Ed Cohn wasn't like, I played hockey for 15 years and then decided like powerlifting's cool. So it's really rare to see anybody from powerlifting have this amazing like background in some other sport. But that doesn't mean it doesn't require some skill and some athleticism. But I think it's more like skill and time and perseverance to do what they do in bodybuilding, which is kind of do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself is a skill. But strength is just something that's accumulated over like a long period of time. And powerlifting in particular doesn't really require you to even be like explosive. It doesn't require any rotation. It doesn't require like, what I mean by it doesn't require explosiveness, maybe it doesn't require explosiveness the same way that you might need for Olympic lifting. Yeah. So if you're going to Olympic lift, it makes sense to probably, work on some jumps and some things like that. And you could make an argument that that would be something decent to work on with powerlifting, but it's just unconventional. You don't see it as much from powerlifters. They're going to lift a lot slower, a lot more controlled. And so, yeah, powerlifting, as much as I love it, it's at the bottom.
All right. This next one I think is rowing.
Rowing, yeah.
I'm just going to put that at the bottom. I don't think rowers aren't athletic, but at the same time, it's one of those things where kind of like cycling, where you're very good at doing this high probably lung capacity and endurance, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I would suck at it. And I'm sure that if the three of us were in a boat trying to figure out how to like get it to go straight, it probably wouldn't work out very well.
Exactly.
So the difficulty of it is probably very high, and the endurance that it takes is probably remarkable. But yeah, stay in your lane.
Rugby.
Oh, rugby. Shit.
Rugby has to go, I think, at athletic at least.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it's athletic is because I feel like, okay, think the freakiest field football type players are going to probably play in the NFL. And then there are probably a lot of freaks in rugby that could play in the NFL, but not the other way around, right? Because rugby and football are very similar sports, except there's one element that's missing, right? So
yeah, there was that running back that he came from rugby. I forgot his name. He ended up playing for the Niners for a little bit.
Yeah,
he did okay for about a season, and then after that, I don't remember what happened to him, but kind of never heard from him again. But you don't. I mean, I can't think of anybody else. Maybe I'm way off.
I think
it's happening a little bit more where people are getting recruited from rugby to come into the NFL. I'm not sure about the other way around. The other way around wouldn't really make as much sense because of financial. There's probably money in rugby, but probably not NFL money.
Yeah, but also, I mean, because again, I've seen a lot of like rugby highlights. There's some fast, strong freaks in rugby. You know what I mean?
It's a nasty sport.
Those
athletes are amazing.
It is.
Andrew, see if you can look that up, though. I do think like just more recently, especially like this year, I think there was like at least one or two people drafted from rugby into the NFL. And it's not like they don't have any football experience, American football experience, but they just had very little. But one of the reasons why they were selected, I think, was just because they were so athletic. They were like, this guy is going to be awesome regardless of how much he knows about the sport.
Yeah. It's one of those things with football only being in America that like rugby, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's played in a bunch of other different countries. I know there's football in Europe, but like, I mean, I don't know. People are paying attention.
Rugby's played everywhere, yeah.
Right? So it's... Maybe we should put that at freak. Because like thinking about how it's played in a lot of other places and it's a very similar sport to football, there's probably like a lot of freaks in rugby.
Yeah.
So we should probably switch rugby.
So someone named Travis Clayton from this year.
Yeah.
He's one that made the crossover.
From rugby to football.
Yeah. And then Louis Rees-Zammit, he'll be playing for the Chiefs.
Oh, cool.
Shit. Oh, a running back. Yeah. Damn, that'll be exciting for him.
Yeah, let's switch it.
All right, so we're moving it to
freak athletics. Yeah.
Yeah, rugby players always have fucking jacked legs. Yeah. I think there's a component to rugby that's way different than football. I think it probably takes a lot more endurance because I think like the average play, I think their play is more like a soccer play.
They're always running the option.
Yeah. It just doesn't stop really.
Yeah.
And how awesome is a scrum? Have you ever seen a scrum?
Is it the thing where they get in the...
Yeah. Just the name scrum sounds great.
It sounds kind of nasty.
I've heard people say it's like it's actually gross. Like the scrum is actually disgusting. Like it stinks.
Oh.
Like everyone
that makes total sense.
Everyone all together just sweating their ass off.
Yeah.
And leaning on each other, breathing on each other, everything.
All righty.
Staff.
Moving on. Oh.
Skateboarding.
Scoot booting. Lots of skill. They do have to be athletic.
Do they?
Yeah. I mean, at the X Games, I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm not talking about stoners on the corner.
You're right. And you see the fact that my mind goes to just like,
It's I would say like right off the bat, it's attracting very athletic people from a very young age.
Yeah.
I think there's some of the other, skaters before them kind of set this precedent that you can make money in the sport. And there's very young athletes in some of these extreme sports that are like making like really good money. So I think that it does attract a lot of freaks. It's just not the freaks we're used to seeing. It's
a different type. Yeah.
What's the dude that's like the best?
Tony Hawk, or like the legendary Tony Hawk, but I don't know who's
the younger guy. He's not young anymore, really, but he's got like red hair. God damn, we don't know. We don't know shit.
No, we don't.
He won snowboarding and he won skateboarding. I think he did both.
Oh, Slater, right?
Kelly Slater.
Kelly Slater?
No, that's a surfer.
He's just, yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. Close enough.
Yeah. Anyway, like
Rodney Mullen.
He's
Bob
great.
Lundquist.
He's another good one.
no, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Dang, but I do know who you're talking. I can see the
Danny Way.
the dude's
Sammy,
face.
the snowboard man.
Sammy Sosa. That's his name.
Yeah. Anyway, because of what the sport requires, these athletes aren't, 6'3" and 240 pounds and stuff like that. They're much smaller. So it's a different type of athlete. It's going to maybe be more along the maybe not as small as some gymnasts, but it's going to be a much smaller athlete.
This is pretty cool. So we were talking about Tony Hawk. Took him forever to figure out how to do the 900, right? So 3 full rotations.
That's insane.
This girl, I think, how old is she?
Jesus, that's so cool.
Young, super duper young, and she was able to do it. I'll have to get her age, but what is it? Damn it. How does it say?
I just wouldn't even ever try that. I'm so scared.
9
Get a
years
longboard.
old. 9 years
9
old.
years old?
Doing a 900.
Wow.
Yo. This just shows how far that sport's come.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about it, Tony Hawk's like maybe a Roger Bannister of the sport, right? He's done some legendary stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just see a 9-year-old do it nowadays. Doesn't mean it's not impressive, but it's just people are breaking those records.
Yeah.
Shaun White?
Shaun White.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, Shaun White. At first glance, you're not like,
No.
he's going to be some spectacular athlete.
No.
But he's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so what do we put lower or
I think it
stay in your lane?
Yeah.
Okay, stay in your lane.
Oh, man, the extreme athletes are pissed.
Yeah. And then I think this is snowboarding, right? So
I think all extreme sports definitely needs to go higher than that, though. Because I think I just think, if we're going with like freak athletes, okay, it's not attracting the normal, typical freak athlete that we're probably thinking of for like the big 3 or big 4 sports. But it is pretty well known worldwide, and these people can do shit that the stuff that they can do, can blow your fucking mind. It's like a combination of like gymnastics mixed in with like a board, and they're doing like tricks and shit and flips and like sometimes like in snowboarding or, so I think a combination of extreme sports. Yeah.
That's why it's called extreme. There's a big element of risk.
Yeah.
You fall the wrong way, you tear your shit to shreds.
Yeah.
So snowboarding.
It's a certain breed of athletes. So I would bump her up at least
moderate.
Yeah.
I feel like, let's bump it up to moderate.
At the very least, yeah.
All right, cool. So snowboarding, same?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got avalanches and shit. What's this? I can't see that far.
All right, let's see.
Is that Soccer Association? Yeah, it is.
Soccer?
Football Association, yeah.
Yeah, soccer's an interesting one because there's high element of endurance. You can be very fast. There's 11 people on the field, just like any other sport. There's a big team. So it's like you can have certain positions that are super athletes like Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Messi, right?
They're probably very healthy, a lot of soccer players.
Extremely.
Their VO2 max is probably really high.
Extremely.
Speed, endurance, coordination, dexterity.
They're generally like a jack of all trades in terms of an athlete, right? But I guess when people
they play it worldwide.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in it.
It would be minimum athletic. It would be minimum athletic. But the cool thing about soccer though is that you don't need to be the absolute fastest to be a good soccer player. You don't need to have the crazy jump ability. Like there's a lot of guys on the field, like for example, Carles Puyol, who was on Barcelona. He was just a great defender. He could catch up to people. He was a great leader on the field, but he wasn't necessarily the best type of athlete. Right. And it's like you have a team of people that can account for maybe someone who's not as athletic. That's why there's a team. So I don't know, I'd put it between athlete and freak athlete in terms of what you see, but I'd put it at athlete. I don't know. I think maybe just because the sheer size of people that you see in football and basketball and these bigger sports where it's just like.
What did you see when you played soccer? Did you see like people being able to run like at crazy times, or did you see demonstrations of athleticism where you were like, holy fuck, like just some of the people you were around, did you notice some of that?
Well, absolutely. Like there are guys who just like have way quicker feet than other guys where they're able to just do certain things with the ball at such high speeds. Like that is just shocking. To be able to run at almost top speed with the ball at your feet while not letting the ball be taken away from you by an opponent who doesn't have a ball at their feet. That's a high level of precision and speed, and that's just like pretty impressive. But then it's like when you think of it compared to another thing, like again, NBA, NFL, it's like, so it's up there, but I don't necessarily know. And again, it's a worldwide sport. It is probably the highest paying sport in the world because it's so worldwide. It's one of those things where maybe because there's just such a big pool, even though it doesn't have like 6'9" guys playing the sport, it still has like some freaks that are playing the sport, right? I put it at freak athlete. You're right. I put it at freak athlete.
I think it's interesting, like what you have to do like for the sport. Like I do realize there's a lot of training that you could do for soccer and it would probably help a lot. But it seems like there's just like a lot of running. And so like it seems like drills and soccer, it seems like more of that is probably your best bet. In something like football, like American football, it's tough to simulate. It's not wise to play the sport that much because you get so fucked up.
Oh, hell no.
Because there's so much like contact, you know? And what ends up happening with a lot of athletes that play football is they end up doing a lot of other stuff. So they'll sprint and they'll lift and they do things like that. And then the same is true with track and field. Is interesting because it's kind of the same thing. You can only do so many sprints. So then you're left with, you got to go in the weight room. You got to lift. The same is true with the shot put. And shot putters are like, I've seen, whenever somebody tells me that they train shot putters, they train with shot putters, or they used to be a thrower, I'm always like, holy fuck, this guy's probably a mutant athlete. I'm like, oh, you could probably jump like crazy. Like, oh yeah, I could dunk a basketball easily. Every single time they are like these freak people that can do all kinds of crazy stuff. They can lift heavy weights. They can jump high. They're usually pretty proficient at Olympic lifts. But that's mainly because their sport, it doesn't lend itself to you playing it. So you obviously need to spend a lot of time playing it. But it can be to your detriment very quickly. Like how many throws can you do at 100% before you're like, and so those guys, the answer is probably none. Like they probably don't throw at 100% most of the time. And it's probably like 1 out of every 4 workouts where they put that much intensity into something. The rest of the time is spent lifting. So it's interesting because like the soccer players very well could be freak athletes in like other ways, but maybe it's just not really ever like seen because they don't maybe have as much time to do some of the other lifting and some of the other things. I'm just kind of proposing that because the sport itself seems like it's a sport that's going to have you moving around so much that it's going to be kind of hard to hold on to like muscle mass and strength.
Yeah. The thing about soccer players is one thing you'll notice is that a lot of them have like legs for days. So they're kind of like cyclists in terms of the way that their bodies look. But there's again, depending on the position, because defenders may not move as much as like a midfielder who's moving up and down the field all day long. But there's a lot of sprinting, stopping, like being super explosive and then like having to chill for a second. So but I think because it's a sport that is so worldwide, that has so many like high level professional leagues, there's a lot of freaky athletes. Like it lends itself to a lot of like really athletic dudes that are very, very fast. So I put it up there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sumo
doesn't mean you
wrestling.
need to be super athletic to play soccer. But yeah,
Sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling's awesome.
I don't know anything about it.
Pull up a couple clips. It's so much fun. I don't know what the hell's going on either, but I just love the yelling. They're, soccer or sumo wrestlers are very fucking huge, and a lot of times they're very mobile. They're also very quick. It can kind of be viewed as maybe like a grappling sport.
Yeah.
There's a lot of contact. Jesus Christ.
Oh, that guy in the...
Oh, my God.
Like
those...
Dude, those
if I just look...
titties.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Those are some...
Nice tits, bro.
Can you rewind, please? And don't worry about my right hand. It's don't trip about it. Bro.
Yeah, all I'm seeing is titties and a thong. This is great. I told you the sport's great. I was trying to tell you guys.
See ya. Dang.
The old Olay.
Made the sport look not as athletic. You just get out the way.
Oh, yeah. These guys, they look like their back hurts so bad because they're so fat. They got to like do that backward, like lean movement.
Yeah.
Hey,
Dude, that would be
man.
hard, man. Fuck.
But hey, I get fucked up, bro. Shit.
Who, didn't somebody...
Craig Jones.
It was.
Craig Jones and Nick Rodriguez. They went and did some sumo.
I love that these guys like their diet and stuff, like a lot of stuff's like opposite, like they like eat in the middle of the night and they, they just, sleeping is obviously great for like gaining some size and some muscle, but they sleep like 10 hours a day or something like that, or 11 hours a day or something like that.
Man, I'm curious. I want, like, how did the sport, like, start? And, like, why are they all wearing G-strings?
It started in Japan. It's a historical sport. It's like one of their pastimes.
Maybe, I know, but I'm just saying, like...
Maybe, like, so at one point, I bet you they were, like, doing this naked. And they were like, yo, like, this is too weird. We got to cover up. And so the option was, like, this G-string type thing. And it was probably a better option than being naked.
All right, let's call it by its proper thing, because
Sorry.
I feel like sumo has such a rich history that I don't want to disrespect it by calling it a G-string.
Oh yeah, because we're gonna get smacked by one of these fucking sumo wrestlers right in the face.
Yeah, we're wearing their thongs. Yeah.
Oh my! You know what? For all the sumo lovers in the audience and all of our fellow Japanese listeners, whoever you are. I want to say that I do not endorse the thoughts of Andrew Zaragoza and Martel.
You guys
calling it a thong and a G-string.
You guys put soccer
Cue
over
that music.
baseball,
Let's get
and
that
we're
music
Americans.
Oh my
Let's
god!
get that Cisco and going.
Oh yeah.
What is the thing called though?
Dude,
really? Banana hammock?
You called it a thing? That's so offensive.
I didn't call it a thong.
He called it a thing.
So wait, how are you guys gonna rate this?
It's
man.
The loincloth that sumo wrestlers wear is
it's called a gi.
It's called a mawashi.
Mawashi.
A mawashi.
Hell yeah.
You better mawashi that. No, things getting pretty rank.
Dog.
You remember?
We're so dumb, or at least I'm so dumb. It's just me.
We're not bright.
Yeah. We're having
Man,
too
that
much
shit
fun.
would be hard.
Man,
Fuck that.
It's I don't know. It's interesting.
Those guys don't have small legs.
No, they don't.
And they're definitely explosive.
And I mean, I know we're seeing them make each other fall, but the thing is like most people are not good. They have such a good level of balance and base that no one, like an average person or even an athletic person, is not going to make a sumo wrestler fall.
No.
Right? They have such a good understanding of how to keep their base.
I just had a vision of David Weck coming up here being all excited about like getting us all to sumo wrestle. I figured out something new that we all got to try.
Okay, and let's think about this too. Like a sumo wrestler, because like when we think about powerlifting, it's very strong, right?
Yeah.
And a barbell is not going to make them tip over, but they're probably easy to tip over. A sumo wrestler may have the build of a powerlifter, but they have much more like athleticism.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I wouldn't put sumo at I'd put it at like moderate.
I'd put it wherever we put jiu-jitsu.
See if you can find sumo wrestlers like training, because it'd be interesting to see like what are these guys doing? Like like weight training or something. Be interesting to see like what the heck else they're doing.
Yo, this looks way more.
Yeah, those guys were more explosive. Yeah, they're always doing those squat things.
Like the horse stance thing.
Yeah. I wonder.
Shuffling.
Yeah, they're doing all this like mobility drills.
Oh.
Yeah, it takes a lot of mobility, a lot of and a ton of strength. I would just put it low because I just don't think there's like enough participants in it for it to have like real freaks.
Let's put it at Andrew where you had jiu-jitsu.
Where's that? That low?
That's lower.
Right here, right?
Yeah.
Looks demoralizing too. Just get like you're trying not to get pushed back by the other guy, but you're just like losing ground.
Mm-hmm.
You're like getting thrown around, pushed backwards.
Underhooks, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Wow.
What is a somersault?
Yeah, backflip. Or
Basic
back somersault.
Back handspring, right?
There we go, back handspring. I want to have a serious conversation with you about your balls, and I'm being serious here. On this podcast, we talked about a lot of things to help men improve the health of their penis because it's important. And your balls have very thin skin. This is true. You can touch them right now, and you know it's pretty thin. Women do a lot of things to take care of their vaginal health, and men, we don't really think about the things that we put right directly on our balls, like our boxers. A lot of popular brands out there have chemicals that are literally touching your balls. Think about this. When you're in the gym sweating, when you're at work sitting, when you're doing all these things could be permeating into your scrotum. Things like BPA, phthalates, pesticides, insecticides, toxic dyes, toxic fertilizers, formaldehyde, all of which could lead to and could exacerbate lower testosterone, erectile dysfunction, and potential infertility. That's why I've partnered with NADS. And NADS is made with 100% organic cotton and no toxic dyes. So instead of putting just anything on your manhood, it's a good idea to get your hands on some NADS. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at nadsunder.com. That's NADS under.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 15% off your entire order. Again, that's at nadsunder.com. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Swimming.
All right, next is swimming. This is an interesting one. The athletes are freaky, especially at the top of swimming, you know, the way they're able to maneuver themselves through water.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when you think of swimming, you know, I start to kind of think of like track because there's like so many different events in swimming. Like there's a lot of different strokes. There's a lot of different things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not like their shoulders move in like a lot of different directions.
Yeah. So do their ankles.
Yeah, their ankles, their feet. There's a lot to it. It's pretty popular. Obviously, it is a worldwide sport. The barrier of entry is like not crazy, but you do need a swimming pool to be able to go to. I would just probably put it on a lower end, just because I just don't think there's enough people maybe participating in it that are like really athletic. Like I see a lot of older people in swimming.
I already know where you're going.
I see a lot of white folks in swimming. There's something,
I don't see many people that are.
There's something missing from swimming. You see? Okay, now you got to pull it up. There was a video the other day that surfaced, and so in order to allow any country to participate, they had, I forget what country it was, but they had a black guy swim, and he like barely fucking made it. But it was in the Olympics, And but he didn't qualify, even though he won because everyone else false started. And he won his thing, but his time was so bad they couldn't advance him any further. My God. So he was like from Cameroon or something,
I gotta see this.
some country like that. It's amazing because he's dying, but he didn't have access to like a regular pool. He just like learned how to swim from like some fishermen or something.
Yeah.
What would I even search?
Black guy drowning in Olympics.
You said everyone lost or everyone else?
Yeah, everyone else false started. So everybody, everyone DQ'd already, and he's by himself now. And so he obviously he won.
He's not doing too good. Oh shit!
This video's fucked up.
I don't know.
The fucking title: How he embodies the Olympic spirit. That ain't cool, dog.
I don't think I could do better, but man.
Did they say what country he's from?
Oh,
let's see if it says.
Yeah, what's it say, man?
The comments.
The people clapping.
His flag.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
Equatorial New Guinea?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, okay. Oh man.
This part right here.
Part's fucked up.
Dude, honestly, I haven't swam in a long time.
The bone density.
I tried. I was like, wow, dude, I forgot how to swim.
This is why I swim with flippers on.
Because
but his legs, like
I don't want to say that black people can't do it, but maybe this ranks swimming up higher.
Because
we finally found something y'all can't do.
Freakiest athlete. Put something over at Freakiest athletes. Shit. You got no black people doing it. It's because it's too good for us. That's why. Put it at Freakiest athletes.
What about water polo?
Please like, subscribe, comment to keep us on air.
God. Yeah, put it up there. Put it up there. All right, what do we got next?
It got a special consideration. Has a little asterisk next to it. People are going to look at the list and be like, swimming? Interesting.
Oh, gosh. Tears. Okay.
This video is so sad, bro. God dang. What's this?
Tennis, I think.
Tennis is interesting, man.
Tennis seems impossible.
Tennis feels like kind of soccer-ish.
Yeah.
A lot of stopping and starting, acceleration.
Let me ask you guys this. Is tennis, though, like, is it also kind of a... Because I know there are tennis courts all over the place. I mean, even Venus and Serena Williams, right?
Mm-hmm.
They played on, like, shitty tennis courts as kids, right? But it still seems like a sport that is kind of that there is a little bit of a wealth gap.
Oh, yeah.
Because with those sisters, the only way that they were able to like get through was because their dad started making connections with like wealthier tennis coaches to get them doing certain things. But you're still not going to see you're not going to see involvement by a lot of people.
A pretty big level of, just like getting started in tennis seems like it would be hard.
But
just in general for most people.
But it does take a lot of athleticism.
Yeah.
Like when you see like how first off the hand or the coordination to be able to keep track of that ball moving up from side to side on the court, the lateral movement, the up and down movement, the throw, like literally like when you swing a racket, it's like almost like a throwing.
The shape they have to be in is insane.
Yeah.
Like they actually really like, I don't think people understand because like if you ever played tennis, you can't play enough to like, you know what I mean? Like you can't go back and forth enough because you suck. Yeah. you can't even barely work up a sweat when you do it.
And then, but like, have you guys ever like tried to get like that top spin? Like,
it's all that shit's
freaking
hard.
Impossible. Like every time I play, I always just hit home runs. Like I can't.
Oh yeah, you just get frustrated and smack the ball as hard as you can. It's a fun sport too if you do play it for a little bit, but it's very frustrating. It's very difficult. Like difficulty-wise, it's hard as fuck. But I would say that tennis is like a combination of like skill and athleticism. But in terms of it having the freakiest athletes, I I don't really think so. No. But I definitely wouldn't put it like in stay in your lane. It definitely.
I wouldn't even put it lower. I'd put it at least moderate or athletic.
Yeah, it's got to be in the athletic realm, I think. Because just about anybody that goes to try to play tennis, even if you are pretty athletic, you're probably going to be pretty embarrassed at how fucking hard it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so more than baseball.
Man, the amount of movement you're doing. Okay, so tennis serves. A tennis serve can go as fast as like 120 something miles per hour.
Launch that fucker, yeah.
Right?
That's wild.
So it's one of those things where like, yeah, I would put it as more athletic than baseball. The range of movement that those athletes are doing, it's something else. And those games can go anywhere between 2 and 5 hours. Mm-hmm. So like some tennis matches could be 4 or 5 hours long. That athlete doing that type of explosive movement. It's crazy.
Yeah. They play a lot of games sometimes in one day.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be brutal.
They also play on like different terrains, sand, dirt, concrete,
grass.
Yeah, grass, right?
The chicks wear the skirts and stuff. That's pretty cool too. Is this now sprinting or is this like track running? I don't know.
I feel like maybe they use the picture of sprinting. I feel like if we put track and field as like one thing, that'd just be too much. But like at the end of the day, I do think track and field does have the freakiest athletes anyway. Let's pull up that video real quick.
That's not it.
It's a pretty cool video. We'll link it in the description, but it mentions something about the long jumpers that are.
Bam.
Triple jumpers have to be able to generate and then withstand extreme forces to hop, step, and jump to greater distances. But it's a brief moment between the hop and the step that leads to an almost superhero level adaptation in a jumper's body. Here's how it happens. The first jump is called the hop, a drastic understatement given that you'll actually leap around 19.5 feet. The speed it takes to propel your body this distance, plus gravity pushing you back to Earth, can equal forces to up to 22 times your body weight.
What?
This is like suddenly holding a rhino on your back while balancing on one foot.
Yeah, it's wild.
In fact, if the force is not returned within milliseconds of contact through the next phase, called the step, your leg could break. No other intentional movement in sport subjects a human limb to more force. Take this impact over thousands of jumps, and your shin and thigh bones will actually become substantially thicker and denser to withstand and return the force of this seriously brutal step.
Anyway,
wait, but 19 feet for reals? That first one?
Because they're running so fast that when they take that first hop, it really propels them forward.
How far do long jumpers jump then?
Well, they're usually measured in meters. I think a long jumper. I think. So yeah, look it up though.
I am baffled.
I want to say that a long jumper. Maybe they measure it in feet, but I want to say a long jumper. You know what? Maybe it's like just not that much further than that first hop that they do. I don't know. I would say like the record for long jumps like 26 feet or something, but I do think that they say like meters.
Yeah, 7.6 meters, so 24 feet. This is just random shit that I'm finding on Wikipedia just to get an idea how far they jump. But wow. So
yeah, a 19
jump. What?
Yeah, 19-foot hop. What's the world record for triple jump?
What? World record.
I remember doing that shit in PE. So that shit was hard.
Yeah, fucking.
You're like, wait, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, track and field athletes are amazing. I already mentioned shot putters. I've had shot putters come in here before, and there was a group of maybe 3 or 4 of them. They could all bench 4 plates very easily, and a couple of them could do 5 plates. A couple of the guys weighed 300 pounds, and they jumped right up on top of the reverse hyper. They were just like incredibly explosive. One guy actually picked up the heaviest kettlebell that we had at the time, and he did a bottoms up press with his right hand. He tried to do it with his left hand a couple times, and then he got some chalk, and then was able to do it.
Was that kettlebell you think?
100, 108 or something.
He did
like
a bottoms up.
It was disgusting. And he also like, I don't think he practiced any of that shit. He just had these massive hands. So he just started like messing around with that stuff at the gym. And we were like, what the hell? And that guy ended up, he worked with Tim Fua, who was a local coach for UC Davis. and they worked on trying to, I don't know where they got with it, but they worked on trying to break the record for throwing a washing machine. It was like a Guinness Book of World Record attempt, I think. I don't remember if he did it or not, but yeah, that dude was strong as fuck.
So a quick Google search says 18.29 meters or 60 feet is the world record for a triple jump.
Wow.
60 feet, dude.
60 feet. That's dope.
I hate not knowing shit, but that's blowing my mind.
That's really fucking
What the
far.
You want to pull up that world record, see if
God
like you can
damn.
visually see it?
Yeah. Well, but I mean, even watching that video where he was saying like that first hop was 19 feet, I couldn't like fathom like how that. Just anyways, triple jump
60 feet. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I do think you're right. The track and field is like too broad. You know, it's like it's a huge sport with a lot of different events. But I always think it's interesting that like decathletes and stuff don't get any. That's like, where's the love for these guys?
Yeah.
They do 10 different disciplines. I think they do like hurdles, shot put. They do all kinds of shit.
I didn't catch the Jonathan Edwards men's triple jump world record.
Oh shit!
You're surprised?
Interesting.
Are you shocked, Mark?
No, I was surprised at his start.
Yeah.
His legs look like egg beaters.
Oh my God.
Give me a replay. Come on.
That's some craziness.
18.29.
That shit's insane. Let's see this again. Bop. Oh. Bop. Oh.
Wow. Long jump is super impressive too. The way that they they open all the way up and then they crunch all the way forward.
Dude, triple jump might be the freakiest. That's crazy. I had no clue.
Just that first bound where they land on that first like the same leg, like whew. That
guy made that look easy.
Yeah.
Like that shit's got to be hard. So yeah, difficulty of track and field and stuff I think is really tough. You know, 110 meter hurdles and shit like that seem to be really difficult. Mm-hmm. Just even going over to the track here in Davis sometimes, just looking at the hurdle, I'm like, seriously? Like people just like taking those things in stride, like they're just running and they just run right over them. Brutal sport, really tough. And I also think that they do get a lot of freak athletes. Yeah. And what Shannon Sharpe, what he was talking about, saying that NFL athletes run the fastest and jump the furthest and all these things. I think that you'd have to give the nod to track and field because they have world records in those categories. Mm-hmm. But I do know his point. I do know what he's saying, that, you know, amongst some of the other sports, but anytime you're starting to think about specialists, you have to always recognize you probably get your ass kicked by a specialist because that's what they do.
Yeah. There's a specific form to sprinting that fast. Like someone who's super fast on the football field, their form of sprinting is very different from like sprinter running on a track. So it's like, it's one of those things where you wonder, like, could, you know, a lot of these fastest guys in the NFL, like maybe Tyreek Hill, I mean, he started as a track star, but like, could these guys, if they develop their form, could they be as fast as like some of these 100, 200 runners? Maybe.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway.
Maybe they can develop it over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, where would stick this on the list here?
Is that S tier? Or like that means like freak athlete?
Yeah, I'd stick it at the top.
Yeah, very top.
Can't really. Volleyball.
Volleyball. There's a lot of jumping.
There's a lot of jumping, and they're also a lot of times very tall.
Yes.
So they have a different kind of body to manage in the sport. As popular as it is, I don't know if it's like popular enough to be tippy top.
I see some wild hops in volleyball.
Yeah.
Like if you like when I watch some volleyball highlights and I see some of these people that are like spiking sometimes, how high they get up in the air. Like volleyball is super popular in like Asian countries too. Like the Japanese volleyball is super popular. And when you watch some of those highlights, bro, holy shit. the athleticism. So I mean, I wouldn't maybe
how high they jump on every play.
Yes, repeatedly,
and then the reaction time to get to the ball if it's lots of agility.
I'd put it at athletic or moderate. I'm putting it in one of those two. Where do you guys want to put it? I ain't putting it lower.
All right, then I'm saying moderate.
All right, moderate.
What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think I think it's an amazing sport, and I think it does take crazy amounts of athleticism. I think of like, baseball player having to throw a ball as hard as they can, tennis player, hitting the racket, and then a volleyball player, smashing or spiking the ball. It's like that just takes a tremendous amount of like coordination and mobility and agility for your body to really be able to open up, to be able to do some of that. I would just stick it in the athletic category. Right. I think it kind of deserves its props for that.
Yeah.
I also think it's tiring, like probably more tiring than you might think. Maybe you wouldn't be gassed, but you wouldn't be able to like jump, like after you've been jumping for X amount of time in a given game, I think you're going to start to lose a lot of that spring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like, I don't know like what's considered professional or not. Like we see a lot of stuff that's on courts, but the stuff that's like played on like sand would be exhausting.
Oh yeah. Beach volleyball.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving. Olympic lifting.
Oh shit. At the top of Olympic lifting, man. Fuck.
I think Olympic lifting is like, it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to learn, but just because something's difficult doesn't mean it attracts the freakiest athletes.
True.
I think actually that's a big problem with Olympic lifting here in the United States. That's always been the conjecture on why the United States doesn't do very well is in Olympic lifting is because our freak athletes are doing other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're more interested in other stuff.
They want to make money.
They want to make some money. So yeah, I would just, I would put it above powerlifting though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going lower?
Yeah. What's that?
There's moderate and lower, and then stay in your lane.
I would say I'd put it in I wish I had better athletes, but I'd put it in the lower probably. It just doesn't have enough appeal here.
Yeah. To be wrong, like there are freaky Olympic athletes. Klokov, I think right there, I forgot that guy's name, but he fucking, I think, snatched over 500 kilos. Not over 500 kilos. He snatched over 220, 230 something kilos. But yeah, crazy.
Wrestling.
So yeah, wrestling is interesting because it's grappling, but like the best wrestlers are also super athletic, whereas like not, it's different from that. So I don't know. I'd put wrestling at minimum. I'd put wrestling at athletic. The type of maneuvers you do in wrestling and just the gas tank of those wrestlers.
Yeah,
it's
seems to be pretty nonstop.
Yeah, man. On all fours to your feet, back to all fours. It's
lots of
sweating.
Athletic.
All
right. Cool. This is the end all be all definitive list. Tier list.
Check it out.
Can't be argued with whatsoever. Just kidding. Man, that was tough though.
Yeah. I think the one that like I'm absolutely sure about, can't really go wrong with it, is the swimming though. Does have the freakiest athletes of them all and shit. It's crazy.
The most mutated.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Make sure.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think, man. This was fun. This was really fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and trying to like define athleticism. Like, what is it? What does it mean? Because there's a lot of sports that maybe don't get the same credit for athleticism.
I think if anything, we've learned that there's we've known this, but there's a big breadth of what can be athletic.
Yeah.
And what strength is.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nick Norwitz. How strong is Nick Norwitz? Strong as fuck is the answer because he could do 400 push-ups.
Nonstop. Yeah.
I never heard of anything like that before. That's insane.
I think that's another cool thing is just, again, it's like looking at strength outside of just like being able to lift something.
Right.
Right. Not that lifting's bad, but it's like that's not the only thing that you can do over time that can help exude strength, power, athleticism, etc. So, yeah.
What's this clip we got here?
So Deion Sanders was asked
yeah.
if Bo Jackson is the most athletic, I guess maybe player ever. Let's see what he says.
Athletic person that you've ever been on a field with?
No, my cousin Junebug. He was a crackhead and good dude though, but he was very athletic because he was still stuff when I came home from college and could never catch him, and he was selling, and I would have to go get it back at the hood from the drug dealers. He was probably the most athletic, my cousin Junebug. But next to that, I think it was Bo.
Is he?
So his ranking system has Junebug, and then under that, Bo Jackson, and then maybe under that he would put himself. Maybe,
yeah. I don't know.
It would be cool to kind of start to maybe have a list and start talking about who we think is like the most athletic person of all time or the greatest athlete of all time. Might be kind of neat to do something like that.
It'd be hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. That is really tough. Too many great athletes in too many sports.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.